Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Evolutionary Business Council Visibility Palooza. My name is Iman Agai, the president of Evolutionary Business Council, and I have the pleasure to be with one of the founding members of Evolutionary Business Council, and all in all, amazing human being who is doing amazing work in the world and creates massive ripple effects of impact as a result of just her being and her work. So, Dr. Lin, thank you very much for accepting to do this interview today. Before we get started, go any further, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your history, your background?
Oh, well, that's 2 or 3 volumes, but the short story, Aman, is that I grew up with a mentally ill mom and an alcoholic dad. They were wonderful people. They just had their issues. And the nature of that was such that when I was 17, I ran away and I put myself through college. By the time I was a sophomore, I was doing graduate school. I lived from the neck up. But the thing that saved me and led me to more of a Yoda was at 15, I discovered the martial arts. And that informed my entire life. I excelled at judo, chubby little kid who got picked on all the time. One of my supremo moments in high school, when the gymnast I had a crush on that was my neighbor couldn't figure out how to do a judo move. Now, nobody knew that I practiced judo. And I said, Randy, I can help you with that. And the Marine comes over and goes, I don't do that. I can do that. I said, no, you don't have to fall. I'm a Marine. So I decked him. And every guy in the gym stopped. I got invited to teach the wrestling team. So that was my entree into the joy and the fullness of martial arts. My teacher became a surrogate dad, my judo teacher. My mom would be locked up in a sanitarium, off the deep end. And after I'd visit her, I'd come sit with my judo teacher and his 6 dogs, 3 standard poodles and 3 dobies. And they'd jump up on the bed. So I had lots of love from 4-legged creatures. When I went to college, I worked my way through college. I didn't really have any support, except I lived with my future in-laws in the servant quarters in their 27-room mansion. So I excelled in athletics and I excelled with the intellect. And as I said, by my sophomore year, I was doing graduate level work. And that sparked me to understand the psyche. I studied everything from Jung to you name it. And then I embarked in a career as a petrochemical buyer, pipes, valves, fittings, heat exchangers, in an all-male field. But because I knew martial arts, and by that time I was a black belt, they were nice to me. They gave me raises. When we had this is a pivotal moment, they had a stadium, giant stadium, they had it open to groups and exhibitions. So the 6'2" security guard is like this, and I said, okay, I'm going to kick you, so just don't move. And I put my foot right between his 2 hands. And the director of the sports authority looked at me and said, I'm not going to mess with you. And then my boss goes, whatever you want. I said, I want a raise. I got a raise the next day. So my martial arts were very, very impactful. I fought at Madison Square Garden. I was scheduled for the Olympics. They hadn't yet gone in, but I tore the ligaments. And that put me on a Tai Chi and a Qigong thing. So I studied in China at the University of Beijing. Then I was invited to go to Taipei, where I studied there. My Chinese is horrible, by the way, but we did manage to get along. And from that foundation that I knew I could take care of myself, I knew if somebody messed with me, they wouldn't come out on the upper end. And I turned all of that rage from being abused as a child into loving, because I had an epiphany moment when I was much younger, when I was strangled and I was looking at my body being shaken. And I didn't really want to come back. I was rescued from a house fire at 3 as well. I mean, my mom did a good job trying to let me leave the planet. But in that context, I found out that I had a gift. If I could put my hand on my mother's back, she'd go to sleep. I was dating my first husband and he was getting a little frisky and I didn't want to do anything. So I'll give you a back rub. 2 hours later, he woke up and didn't know what happened. So my hands, my wit, and my martial arts training allowed me to grow and expand. And I'm still expanding to this day. I'm a 5th degree black belt in Taekwondo. I have a 1st degree in Aikido. And I've traveled all over doing speeches and trainings with a foundation about martial arts. And one of my premier stories that I told 10 years ago, it's not suitable now, but I was coming home from finishing my dissertation and I went to Trader Joe's and I bought bananas. Beautiful day, camera in my pocket. These 2 people are walking toward me and every hair on my body went to full alert. I stepped off the sidewalk onto the grass, looked down, and the woman that passed me said hello. And I reflexively looked up and she goes, turn around, bitch. There is a loaded gun to my head. How do I know? I asked God. And so they took my purse with my wedding pictures in it, which is what ticked me off. I started chasing them. I threw my bananas and I said, stop, not violence to violence. God, give me the words. And I shouted, God bless you both. I know you need help. 4 hours later, there were not 2, but 4 and 2 loaded guns. My shouting, God bless you, when the police caught them, the first thing they did was confess. They said they couldn't get God bless you out of their head after they put a gun to my head. So that kind of is the symbolic nature of my life. My job is to bring loving wherever I am, no matter what it looks like. There's always the opportunity to put loving in it. And, you know, I do have a system I've worked with for 40 years. I work with traumatized veterans, people that have been ritually abused, you name it, the worst of the worst. And also people that don't seem to have issues, but they have deep-seated issues they don't know about. And after being connected with Bell Telephone at my kitchen table, I'm saying, okay, well, how am I going to pay the mortgage this month? I ran a retreat center. The inner wisdom said, call Bell of Pennsylvania. I don't know anybody at Bell Offensive. God, give me a name and give me a number and I'll call them. Now, I had never done corporate work at that point, just people at my retreat. So about 10 minutes later, an old client called and said, Lynn, how you doing? I said, great, what's up? Oh, I'm doing some marketing for Bell of Philadelphia, and the guy they're going to hire doesn't know his rear end from a hole in the ground. I cleaned that up a little bit. And I hung up the phone from her. I had the phone number. I sat there. I said, really? You want me to call this guy I don't know? I said, you put the words in my mouth. So he actually picked up the phone. His name was Gene Wiedemoyer. And he said, hello. And I said, hey, Gene, it's Lin Morel. I hear you need a Band-Aid for your boo-boo. That got me my first corporate gig. And I went when they were laying off about roughly 60,000 people when they did away with, you know, all the divestiture and stuff. And I worked with the 60 of them, especially Gene. I helped him get clear on his purpose, which was he was going to retire and start a dude ranch in Wyoming. And the next, I called up through the year to see how they're doing. And then I got his assistant. I said, Gene there? No, Gene doesn't work here anymore. I said, did he start a dude ranch in Wyoming? Yes, he did. So I have that impact on people where, because of my energy field is so strong and I know myself most of the time, then I don't project anything on anybody. I'm an open book. I'm there to hear them. I'm here to listen to what's not being said, what is being said. And in about 30 seconds, I know what's going on. And so I always say, you are in charge of your session. I don't care if you're making $9 million or 10 million or 50 million. I say, this is yours. You are in charge. And when they have that sense of safety, they open up. So the system I have has come from 40 years of working on myself. I call it the WIN method. The W is the willingness. You can substitute any word for that. The I is for intention, integrity. And the N is for being neutral while you're looking at your life and the people around you. So that WIN method can be very, very malleable depending on the audience. But I find that when they have something concrete to hold on to, they'll remember the work. They don't want them to remember the trauma. I want them to come present right now, that the benefit of what they lived through gave them inner wisdom. And when you know your wisdom, when you know who breathes you, just about anybody can let go of their trauma. And that's my specialty. Sometimes it's an hour, sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it takes 2, 3 times. But that ability that I have as a martial artist to be completely still inside. I've had people chase me around a room with a knife, a very sharp knife, and I stayed in equanimity, and the violence, I can be in equanimity. And so my challenge ongoing is to be in equanimity with myself. And I think that's probably all of our challenge. The outside world teaches us all about the outside world, but where do we learn how to be still and trust and know that whatever breathes us is the boss? And so I work for the boss, and my goal is to seed living love wherever I go. So when I yelled to the two people that held me up, I shouted, "God bless you both. I know you need help." And I meant it. And it transformed the detectives, the plainclothesmen. When I went to pick up my purse, the desk sergeant said, "Are you the lady that said, 'God bless you'?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Wait a minute." They took all the cops out. And he goes, "This is the crazy lady that said, 'God bless you' to these people." I said, "But it worked, didn't it?" And they were left scratching their head, because love is the most powerful force that we have. It breathes us. It directs us if we pay attention. So my goal as a speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, I wear lots of hats depending on what they want to call me, is for the expansion of the potential that lies inside of all of us. And it doesn't have to take 30 years with a shrink. It can be done simply, easily, without all the angst. You just bring it to what's the basics. You give them a method that they can use every day for themselves, on themselves, that they're not going to forget. And then I watch them grow. Like, for example, one of my clients was a film owner of a company. And when he came, he was, I think he owed about 150, 200,000 to the IRS. And he was referred by a client who gifted him a session. And I worked with him for 5 years. And then this is on the documentary that's coming out soon, so it's not private. And he said, the first year I was in debt, that he came to me, the first full year, I made $1 million a year. The second, I made $2 million in the year. I paid off all of my IRS, and I'm on target for more. And so that's the kind of work I do. And I have relationships. I have a relationship with one man that's been with me for 18 years. Some people are a little more slow in getting where they're going, but he just closed his company and now he's opening a new company. And so I'm not involved, but you better know that every single person on their team is still calling me, because I'm an essential person they can lean on. So I maintain relationships with people all over the world, because my goal is to take care of myself first so I can take care of others. And there's only 1 or 2 times when I've ever said no, because the person was so dark. I learned the hard way. They were really dark, and it took me 2 weeks to clean myself off of their energy. I have other people who were told they had only X numbers amount to live. But when you turn it around to joy and celebration and wisdom, they hang around. And just last week, I had one client from 20 years ago called me up, "Lin, they tell me they're pretty sure I have cancer." I said, "Really? Let's take a look. What organ?" Told me what organ. I identified the organ and the issues behind the cancer. 2 days later, she went to have her second scan. There was nothing. We are that powerful. Not me. They are. We all are. So that's my passion, Aman. I want to bring loving to the planet in whatever way they're willing to receive it. I'm not a do-gooder, but I want to do well by the people that come into my path. And that's really my mission, is to lift the planet, to lift every person that I'm with. And, Christ said you can't really help the fools, but you can pray for them. So that's pretty much my methodology and how I work with people.
Before we get to start, thank you very much for sharing this, by the way. This was amazing. And I also answered a lot of other questions that I usually ask, which is great. But before we get started recording, I said, like, during the interview, I'm gonna ask you for like a 2-3 word like modality name, right? And share that with us, because that will help a lot with understanding, like, all of this story has resulted to that work, and that work has resulted in a lot of impact.
Thank you. That's really accurate.
Yeah. So tell us what that like the modality is that you're actually.
Well, I call myself a stress management consultant, and it varies. Some people call me coaches, but in the length of time that I've been doing this modality, which is to help people release themselves from anything that holds them back, be a baby trauma by our standards, would be a huge trauma by their standards. So I came up with something called the WIN method. It's simple. And it's the willingness has to be the first word. You have to be willing to learn and grow, willing to lay down what you're holding on to. I mean, just look at Gaza and Israel. They've been holding on for how long? And so that willingness gives you the next word of the win, which is integrity, intention, intuition. And it's interchangeable based on the person's personality. No two people are the same. They pretty much decide for themselves what their win method is that they can bring with them wherever they go. When I started, I made a business card and I made it a magnet, and I had the 3 keys to personal power. And that's really what the win method is about, reclaiming that which is yours, that society, health challenges, parents, you name it, have sort of buried us in. So the intention, the integrity, the intuition, they can interchange that as they're growing and learning, get stuck, get unstuck. The N is for neutrality, because things happen to us and then we're trigger happy sometimes. You said what to me? Whack, 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 whack. And the truth is, when you can be neutral, you can have a really big viewpoint where you're not attaching anything to anything other than what is it? How can I be neutral when I'm dealing with this person? And the outgrowth of that win method, I got more jobs in California because when I gave speeches, I handed out that little thing. They put it on the refrigerator and they say, "Oh, we're doing a Long Beach training for the staff. Could you come do the win method?" So it sort of got cemented in very, very generically and easily. And like I said, depending on who I'm speaking with, the win, WIN, changes, but the form rack and the framework is pretty much the same, is to bring you to equanimity.
Awesome. Thank you very much for sharing that. That um it, one of the challenges for many people, Dr. Lin, which I feel like you have amazingly demonstrated here, is that lots of people that are in transformational leadership work have hard time expressing their work and their specialty with simple language that people understand. And yet the work that you do, the depth of the work that you do is of course deep and very complex, and yet you have converted that to a simple, I'm a trauma and stress release consultant or coach, and I have this win method, and make it explainable, easy to understand, and easy to follow. So when somebody is dealing with trauma, like, I gotta call Dr. Lin. When somebody is dealing with stress, they're like, I gotta call Dr. Lin, right? As opposed to talking about like all these other technicality of the work that you do, which is above the pay grade of the majority of people, including many transformational leaders, most likely. And yet, yet you represent yourself in the way that's understandable, easy to follow, and easy to contact. And that's one of the conversations I usually have with people, because if you are a transformational leader, but you can't explain it to the people that can benefit from your work, it will be hard for them to to get the results of working with you. And so anyways, as a person, as you know, I have two sides to my life. I have my marketing side and like teaching all the marketing, everything. And then I have my personal development side and teaching all the things that I do in the personal development world. And the marketing coach side of me was smiling and enjoying your expertise and the simplicity and the result of that on how now people can benefit from your work because you can very simply explain to them the benefit of working with you and what it is that you do. So I think in in the future, I'm gonna use you as an example for lots of my classes. It's like, guys, let me tell you like about Dr. Lin that that her technicality is so complicated that probably nobody would understand it with easy language, and yet how simply she puts it for everyone to understand when they need to call her, when they need to contact her and go after. Amazing, amazing. Now, we talked about the story of what made you passionate. We talked about the story and experiences of people working with you. But tell us this, how can people find you if they are experiencing trauma, stress, or like, or want to know more and want to connect with you? How can they find you?
Well, one is obviously my website. It's drlinmorel.com. I do have a 20-minute video that they can listen to calm down. I'm on Instagram. Facebook, however, I had almost 100,000 followers. Someone hacked it. I'm yet to get my Facebook back. So I've been word of mouth for 40 years, Iman. I advertised twice. Once was for a Tai Chi class in 1987 or something. And the other was for the Chamber of Commerce to donate money to their funds. So times are changing, obviously. Word of mouth is like, if I need a client or I want a client, I write down in my goal book what I want. So for 40 years, I've been keeping goals. This is my goal book for today. I have
Yeah.
literally 9 things that I target every day, and I grade myself at the end of the day. That's the analytical part of me. So how are my relationships? I'm winning the game of. How are my finances? How am I maintaining equanimity when the negativity drops on your head? You know, how about creativity, health, serendipity? All that is so important. When we are in alignment with the win and with our truth, everything comes to us because we are energy driven. The thing I learned after studying in China and with what, 59, 60 years of martial arts, energy is everything. If we have negative thinking, we're going to get it. Even in the midst of Paul's stroke, I still knew that this was a blessing. And he came to see that, you know, I need more discipleship toward my body. You know, a simple thing. And he was at work 4 days later. He got the message. People that are skeptical, I always lead with, I don't expect you to believe anything I say. Take what fits and leave the rest. Because it's not my job to fix them. I'm just holding a gift. And I can say that people that I've worked with have been given up on, you know, but because I have been through hell, literally, in some of my experiences, I'm not afraid of the darkness. I don't like to go into it, but I have the ability to go into it, pluck them up and take them out if it's for their highest good. And I'm also a minister. I've been a minister since 88. And I literally am a spiritual warrior. I answer to God. He says, stay home. Don't go to the post office. I was going to go to the post office. Say, what am I doing next now, Lord? Go home. And that's how come I had this. So I'm activated by the energy in my body, by my intention, my attention, my willingness to own my mistakes. Well, that one didn't work too well, did it? It's a miss dash take. Take 1, take 2, take 3. So we're here to learn and grow. God knows I've made millions of them. And I think we can't get through the day without making mistakes because this is a learning planet. But when we put love in it as the secret sauce, you can be with somebody who's just put a gun to your head and have compassion. I prayed for that young lady with the gun to my head for over 3 years, and then there are people that have stolen from me, and then their guilt, they bring things back. I've lost my house to fire, my retreat center, my husband to a plane crash, my other husband to a drug overdose they gave him. I know what sorrow is, and I'm not afraid of it. It is a piece of our existence. And if we can allow ourselves to feel the sorrow, release the sorrow, and find thanks for what was there, that's pretty much my philosophy. Because everything that happens is, to me, and they're going to think I'm crazy, is for me in the ultimate end, for me to learn, grow, find compassion, find serenity. Pretty much if I write a goal now, I get it. The last 9 months, I haven't felt well. So it was a sabbatical for me. But I still did my journal. These are my wins so far for the day. By the end of the day, I used to do 500. That was overkill because I was working with a grandmaster, but now I do 25 or 30 wins. And so that fuels me because we're taught to think about our losses. And that's the negative powers, like the Matrix movie. It takes us out of our core. And the thing I love more than anything is to just go in a room, not say a word, and bless everybody. Silently, obviously. God, I love you. God bless you. Peace be still to everybody. And even the grumps calm down because that's the intention. I don't say it out loud. It's in my heart. And the other thing that I use frequently when there is againstness, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And that comes from Dr. Q, Q, whatever, Kew. Joe Vitale wrote about him. But that's the truth. When you bless someone, unless they are so on the other spectrum of negativity, and there is evil, it's when you live backward. And when you lived backward, we call it the devil. So it's always there, the yin and the yang. And it's for us as thought leaders in the EBC to be gentle with ourselves, to be gentle with others, and not be quick to condemn anybody. Oh, look what that person's wearing. Look at this, look at that. Instead, look at that gold inside of them. And then if we all looked for the good and the great and the loving, we could make a peace on earth. That was my talk. I was voted top something International Association of Top Professionals. And the day my husband had his accident, I was doing a talk for 50 thought leaders. And my voice broke a little bit. I said, as the plane was taking off to get me here, I got a message. My husband has been in an accident, but I don't know how bad. His son said he's okay. But when I talked to him that night, I said, how you doing, honey? He goes, I had a stroke. I'm in the hospital. So here I am in Toronto. Here he is in a hospital. I didn't freak out. I just started doing, God bless you, I love you, peace be still, whatever this is for. And so I got home the next day and drove to the hospital, and he had forgotten how to do his own system. I said, remember when people can't remember how to do stuff, Paul? And you say, put your hand on the part that hurts and say, I'd like a this. So I said, Paul, I'm going to do a brain matrix on you, but I want you to do it. Put your hand on your head, say, I'd like a Paul Mitchell brain matrix. He went home the next day because the stuff works. That's his method, the electrical matrix. Together, the WIN method and the electrical matrix method is a recipe for self-empowerment. No matter how crappy you feel, you have your body and you have autonomy over it. And most of us don't realize our cells respond to our thinking. Our life responds to our thinking. And how is it that we can be ourselves in integrity with all the positives and negatives, but always strive for a true north? That's really the WIN method. It gives you the ability to follow the not so straight and narrow, the willingness, the intention, and the neutrality. Oh, this is terrible. Well, how do you know it's terrible? It might be a blessing. So that's really my philosophy in terms of working with people. And even when I speak, I read the crowd. I research what the subject is and I read the crowd. When I get there, before I, since the first time I spoke at EBC, I go to the bathroom and say, God, it's all yours. Let's do it. And then whatever comes out of my mouth is usually appropriate.
Mhm.
So I hope that answered your questions and probably then some.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I really appreciate this. This is amazing. I think we can actually sit and talk for like 3 days about this, and that's probably why you do a lot of training and all these things. So, we're almost getting to the end of our time together. But I have one last question for you. If you were having conversation with a transformational leader who is not part of EBC, what would you tell them about Evolutionary Business Council?
Oh, let me tell you, I brought so many people in the council in the day. I would tell them that there's a community in the world that is committed to doing good, being loving, greatness, kindness, and equanimity without judgment. And that there's a community where we all learn and grow together to support one another because, everybody united is really, really powerful. You can do a one-off as a thought leader, but when you're surrounded by people with differing opinions, but one common goal is the betterment of humanity. So those are some of the people I brought in. I don't think they're in anymore, but I was very close with some of them. And now that it's up and working again, I'm delighted to participate. I stopped participating for a while because I was so disappointed. And it wasn't what I came on board to do. And so I find I've already recommended somebody, but I also work with women who are entrepreneurs, and it's a networking group, virtual. And so I've mentioned it to them already that it would be a great opportunity. And now that everything can be virtual and they don't have to travel, it's a lot easier for them. So,
Sure.
I have no problem recommending the EBC. I wouldn't have a year or two ago, but I
Mhm.
don't have a problem now because my reputation's on the line.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Dr. Lin. Thank you very much for doing this interview with me. We appreciate, I know that it was a busy day, and when like about a couple of hours ago, like we thought that this is not going to happen, and look at us being here and ending the interview.
Yeah.
So really appreciate you. Appreciate.
Welcome. And if you want me to talk, I mean, I can talk. They hit me on a very, very tough day when Paul was having a really bad time.
Yeah.
Depending on what you want, and if I would be of use as a speaker, just let me know. What I was going to teach with 60 years of martial arts is very concrete things that they can do when they're stressed that are so simple. They're no-brainers. A 5-year-old could do them. So that they have armoring, how to release the negativity. I mean, showers work great and so do baths. But the
Yeah.
Chinese, it's a 5,000-year-old practice that I do. And so, if I can be of service, yes, and
For
just
sure.
where and when and how I can be of service. So
For
thank
sure.
you,
Thank
Amon.
you very much.
God
Thank you,
bless
Dr.
you.
Lin. Really appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you at another event, summit, conference somewhere, and hang out with you and learning more from you.
Likewise. And thank you, Lamari. As always, it's lovely to see your shiny face.
Thanks.